Okay, it's Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand back here. Patrick Reusse with me as usual on Mondays. Patrick, how are you?
I'm just fine.
Good,
I'm just
good,
fine.
good.
Looking forward to a steamy late week. No, I'm not.
No,
Feel sorry for all our visitors who come here at this time of year expecting to get a little relief from the heat. This is not going to be it. This will be a reminder we can get hotter than hell too. So
yes,
this is going to be one of those weeks. So
yeah,
anyway,
yes. It'll be one of those weeks, especially for the 3M Open, which we'll probably talk about later in the show. See if they can get get crowds out there, despite pretty much every day in the 90s this week, including a couple that are going to get close to 100. We'll talk.
whew,
Yeah, it's gonna be hot. We'll talk Twins in a little bit here too. Maybe a little leagues cup soccer too,
oh,
Patrick. Because I got to engage you on that because I know you
we
big.
beat hated
Yes,
Pueblo.
Puebla. Yes, the who
They
I'm told by my friend John Marthaler basically called them the Minnesota United of Liga MX. So we'll see how good they are. We'll see how good they are. But Patrick, I want to start with the Vikings today, just because I think it was on this show this time last week that I told you we were lacking some drama, and and then and the Vikings, as they do, they provided. Now, see, we did our show Monday last week, and then I took part of last week off, took a few days off. There was still a full week of shows. Maybe I fooled the listeners a little bit because we did some shows in advance. I did a little bit of an intern Noah Furtado did the Friday show, did a nice job with that. So thank you, Noah. But we had some shows done in advance. Jeff Day and I did a couple shows in advance on the best and worst trades, and that allowed me to, Patrick, take our three kids to North Dakota to visit some family. My wife had a work trip, and so we dropped her off at the airport, and I took the three kids and the 3-month-old puppy in the van.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is an adventure. So I bit off a lot on this trip, and it was good. It was really good. The kids are generally pretty good travelers. We proved that when we brought them out to the Black Hills a few weeks ago. The dog was kind of a wild card. We had no idea because he's 3.5 months, but he actually turned out to be maybe a better traveler than any of us. He was very good. But I decided we dropped my wife off. It was like 9:20 9:20 a.m. like Tuesday morning. Dropped her off at the airport, and we were like, okay, we're just going to go straight from here. But unlike most trips, I didn't have like a time I had to get someplace, so I wasn't in a big hurry. So I was like, okay, we're just going to take our time. I had told my grandma who's 91 today, by the way, Patrick, 91. This is her 91st birthday today. I told her we'd be there probably sometime, late afternoon, maybe around 5. So I'm giving us like a good 7-8 hours to get to Grand Forks, which is straight through a little less than a 5-hour drive. So we're going and we're making all the stops where, stop for snacks, stop to play at the playground at the rest stop, I think we stopped in Alexandria for lunch, and that turns into a long stop because we go to a playground there too to eat and let the dog stretch his legs, run around, things like that. And I'm looking at my phone, looking at the time, and I'm like, God, it's 2 o'clock. So we've made it like a little over 2 hours of driving time in about 4.5 hours. And I'm like, like the dad instincts started to kick in. I'm like, all right, we got to start making some better time. We got to start getting to Grand Forks a little bit faster. So we leave Alexandria right around 2. And by some miracle, Patrick, we make it all the way from Alexandria to Grand Forks without stopping. So like the first part of our trip is like 4.5 hours of 2 hours of driving. The last 3 hours is straight through. And I'm so happy. I'm so pleased with the time we made. And then later in the week, Patrick, I come to see that we didn't really make all that much good time at all. If we had just hired, Patrick, Jordan Addison to drive us to Grand Forks, Vikings rookie first round pick, we could have got there like in a little over 2 hours. Pat, 140 miles an
Yeah.
hour, 3 a.m. in
Now,
St. Paul in a Lamborghini. This is like the triple crown of bad decisions. What did you think of that story?
Now, presumably, when you hit the Fargo area there
Yes.
and had to get over onto the other freeway going north to Grand Forks, he would have had to slow down to like 115, 120 there for a while, making some of those turns, right?
Not
So,
necessarily. He was in St.
yeah,
Paul and he was doing
no, it's
140. I mean, yeah.
140 just before he was going to take. Now, we don't know now if he was going to go into Woodbury or if he was going to go north. But if he was trying to make that turn north on 35 there,
Right.
going 140, that would have been a little hairy. That would have been a
Yes.
little tough to make that turn. Now, at that time of morning, not much traffic, but the guy's an idiot. Okay, he's
Yeah.
and it's good. We need one for the Vikings because we've had a couple of years here that we don't have. We still might have as many idiots as they've ever had, but they're doing such a great. They got this whole security team now that leaps into action. They call them. They're supposed to call these people. The legend is, if they get in any trouble, they immediately call the security people, and they do their best to try to cover it up. We so they did have the period when they had 13 DWIs in 18 months. I believe it was 13, or I'm not sure they were all charged, but they were arrested. They were
Right.
stopped on suspicion of those. So that was the glory period of drunken, crazy Vikings. This guy, what's amazing about this guy is he was going 140 sober, which is probably good, but supposedly no alcohol involved with
Right.
this. All no drugs. I was wondering who he wanted to visit, who he was in such a hurry to visit, going to St. Paul. He was going
Right.
to St. Paul direction. Now,
Everything's closed.
maybe he had a he figured out a route to Egan that went through St. Paul. Maybe I'm not sure what that would have been. He could have went all the way around, I guess, and got on to 494 there over beyond Wood, because I go out to Woodbury a lot. The grandkids are out
Yeah.
there. So they're different routes, but I don't know where he was going. But he apologized and has in his statement said it was a misjudgment. Okay, good, thank you. Going 140. So what at what point it's a misjudgment? So at what point does it register in your head? How fast should I go here? Should I
Right.
mean what's a good reasonable speed?
Right.
120? I don't
Right.
know what it is, but he went to 140, and people are calling it speeding. This is not speeding.
No.
This is life endangering idiocy, and the Vikings certainly should. They just won't probably announce it, but the Vikings certainly should give him some kind of a suspension and not have him. Shut him down he didn't practice all the time
No.
during the mini camp or whatever the heck they had up, the various outlooks, because he was supposedly injured. But he's got potential. He's got potential to be a knothead. There's no doubt about it. Percy had his own deal of being late, but that was like he couldn't get through the airports and stuff like that. He showed up and didn't get to his press conference, and Percy was a really great player who was a complete goofball and didn't practice on Wednesdays. This guy hasn't practiced yet, but we were a little suspicious of him when guys get drafted and they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm getting to go to a great organization, and I'm so excited about the Vikings that I'll hear nothing but good things, and I was hoping the Vikings would draft me." That's what they say. He
Yes.
said, "Let's get paid." Those were his opening words. Let's get paid. So that tells you that he's going to be an injured. This isn't the last we've heard from him. Now, maybe it is, because they'll work harder to cover up all his dummy and
Misjudgments.
his misjudgments, and I think it's I think it's a little harder now. I know a lot of guys, they go out there when the practices are open, and the beat writers count players. They tend to see who might be missing because they
Yes.
don't. tell you stuff like that anymore, like they used to. But the access is not what it used to be, so it's a little harder to to go in the locker room and see if everybody showed up today or something like that. So I don't know. We're gonna have a harder time following them, but I would think this is not the last we heard of Jordan and Addison in difficulties because, as I said, this is not misjudgment. This is being a moron, and it's not something. It's not a one. It's not a one-off to drive 140. It's not a one-off. It's
No.
I don't know. Remember, I think the greatest of all 30-30s on ESPN was the one about broke athletes. The
Yes.
one where they all had frittered away their money. And most of them were NBA. But the guy I remember, I think it was Keith McCants. And Keith was he was the star of the thing because he was admitting his stupidity, and he was just so down on himself when he was talking about himself and that thing and how he frittered away every nickel he made. He was a 5th overall pick or something like that. And Keith was talking about how he got his severance, his separation check. He was done, right? They gave him like $50,000, and he owed it to his ex-wife for child support. And he'd been in jail. I think he'd been retained for a couple of days for not paying his child support. And he said he was driving. He had this check for like $50,000, and he was driving to give it to her to get him out of trouble. And he saw this silver Hummer outside this car dealer, and he said, "I just had to have that silver Hummer." But this guy's going to spend his last $50,000 on his last $200,000 on another Lambo. That's for sure. He said, the first thing he does is go spend $230. He's getting $13 million guaranteed. Okay. People say, he said for life. Well, first of all, we're going to get him for 30% of that at least, right?
Right.
At least 30%, maybe 40. And then, so it's down to 9, it's down to 8 or 9. And then he's the first thing he does is spend $235, $240 on a Lambo.
MGM Wine and Spirits is the choice for savings, service, and a great selection of spirits, premixed cocktails, wines, and of course, ice-cold beers and hard seltzers. With over 30 locations throughout the Twin Cities and beyond, there's an MGM near you. Head to mgmwineandspirits.com to find a convenient location in your area. Get social. Follow MGM on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest news and trends. Make great moments with MGM Wine and Spirits, your locally owned and operated choice for over 50 years. Save time, save money. Shop MGM.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it's just it's an air of, I don't know,
arrogance. It's arrogance.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And we don't know much. I mean, here's the thing too. I mean, we don't know much about him at all as a player yet either, because he hasn't been on the field yet. I think this has the potential. I just, you get some red flags, and this is it. The undisclosed injury, he reported to camp, everything could be fine. He could be a great player, and this could be the only thing that ever happens. But right now, I got some big questions about this first round pick, and I got big questions about a lot of everybody that they've drafted so far in the last 2 years now at this point.
Yeah, and he's short. He's a little guy. He's a little deceptive guy. Supposedly a good pattern runner and going to be the underneath threat who can go 50 yards on an underneath pass when they're all chasing Jefferson down the field. But it does certainly make you appreciate Jefferson being not only a wonderful athlete, but wide receivers. If you go to the list of zanies in the NFL, right, take the top 20 of the last 15 years. 18 of them are receivers for some. I mean, they're all.
Oh, yeah.
And when you get a guy that's a stand-up citizen and a fantastic player like Justin Jefferson, you should appreciate it because he's a receiver and they can't be counted on. They're Des Bryant, and I mean, we could go on and on and on about the receivers who just do goofy things and this guy doesn't. Not only, as you say, not only hasn't he played a game yet, he hasn't played a play in practice yet. For goodness' sake! So it's it's an embarrassment, but well, I got to admit, a couple of us were that have been covering the Vikings for a long time. We're changing texts and exchanging texts and says, "We're back, baby." We got. I mean,
We're back.
one of my first tweet was the St. Peter city officials are very happy that the Vikings no longer trade
Yes.
Mankato.
Was it Corn Robinson? Corn Robinson was our guy, right?
Corn was going 110 through Mankato, but he had an excuse. He was trying to beat curfew at Mankato. He was a one of the most interesting cats we've been. There's another wide receiver too, Corn Robinson, punt returner and wide receiver, but he could sit there and BS you about his changed life better than anybody I've ever been around. Amid all his problems, just hold court and everything. And then 2 days later, he's going 110 through St. Peter trying to make curfew. So, but as I said, this guy would have made Corn Robinson look like a Prius driver, for goodness sakes, going through
a Prius driver. Well, camp opens. First practice is Wednesday. It feels early this year, and all of this off-field stuff aside, and there hasn't been much of it until now. But it's an interesting camp for them because they got some question marks, especially on defense, where we have no idea how good they're going to be. Their biggest offseason addition was probably Brian Flores, their coordinator, and we're gonna learn a lot about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell this season. I think O'Connell's a good coach. I don't know yet about Kwesi's talent evaluation, but this year will tell us more about that. But this is a pretty big year for them organizationally, because if you follow up 13-4 with 7-10, even if people understand that there's some rebuild amid the competitive rebuilding, the impression of the regime could change a lot this year.
Well, and the big mystery come reporting day is Hunter going to be there?
Yes.
Not Daniel Hunter, and they got a situation now where they every time this idiot negotiates with the NFL, they take another thing away from him. And one of the things in this clause is when they start fining you whatever it is a day, $75,000 or what, they can't give you that money back.
Right.
Report. So, and they just throw that in there, and the league says, the player said, sure, we'll sign off on that. That guy D Morris is finally bounced. He doesn't have the job anymore, right? Didn't they? Aren't they getting rid of D Morris, the worst union?
I can't remember. I don't know that.
It's I think he is, but he can go to the island that the NFL bought him or something to keep making these ungodly, horrible deals for the players. But anyway, yeah, it is interesting. And here's the thing: in my opinion, they owe the football gods 3 games.
Yes.
Year, so let's say they're 11-18, 11-16 talent-wise, 10-7. They're going to be 8-9. They owe you got to pay them back. You got to pay the football gods back. And it isn't like brilliant adjustments that caused them to get off the deck and win these ungodly number of games last year. They got outscored. They went 13-4 and they got outscored. They owe the football gods at least 3 games. So there's got to be 3 games where you say, how did they lose that game?
Yeah.
So
which would be back to being the Vikings that we all knew for a long time. The optimist Patrick would say that the football gods owed them at least all of those games last year, but we'll see if they have to pay those back this year. Hey, let's switch to the Twins.
One other thing I would say is that they do have the same advantage the Twins do. They are playing in the proper division. It's only a 4-team division, but the idea that the Detroit Lions are now on the right track, every time they popped up for the last 40 years, the Lions are the right track. And then the next year, they're the Lions all over again. The Bears are the worst team in the NFL, and the Packers are going to be the Packers are back to being in the toilet. So it's 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 a division that they should go 5-1 in the division, which gets you a long way towards having a decent season. So anyway, they got the division advantage just like the Twins do.
Yeah, and the Twins took advantage of that over the weekend, beat the White Sox 3 times. They are 8-2, I believe now since the break, and a couple, I think if we're talking about kind of getting right after some tough luck, I think they're pretty bad in 1-run games before the break, and that has changed. That one yesterday, rallying from 3-0 down in the 9th, tying it, and then winning it in the 11th after it looked like they might have blown their chance.
Was it the 11th?
Oh, it was the 12th. You're right, it was the 12th. Yeah, because they both scored in the 10th. Neither team scored in the 11th, and they got one in the 12th after Vasquez. Vasquez had hit the double play, and then Jeffers saved the day.
They scored in the 10th on when for the second time in the series, a White Sox right fielder caught the ball and then fell down and let the guy run home from third. That happened Friday night too. The guy fell down and they got to tie the game on that fly ball. And how did the White Sox make bad plays in the field? They're just. I said this, and I guess again on Twitter, which is going to be X pretty soon, by the way. X, did you see that? X, Elon's changing it to X. But anyway, I said this, that the White Sox, the Tom Kelly theory was sometimes you beat them, sometimes they beat you, sometimes you beat yourselves, and sometimes they beat themselves. So there's 4 ways games are decided. The White Sox got beat by the Twins once and beat themselves twice in that series. So Saturday and Sunday, they've been doing that all year. I can't believe this guy's still managing them. But they're going to be the Whiteys are going to have a garage sale on before the trading deadline. I don't know how many of their guys they want to get rid of, but supposedly Robert, the center fielder, is about the only guy that's safe from not getting traded. They're going to try to get rid of everybody. They are disgusted down there. And, Twins fans have been upset at various times this year because they don't think this team has reached their potential. How about the White Sox fan?
Yeah.
If you were a White Sox fan, you'd want to get up. I mean, a serious White Sox fan, you'd have to get up and vomit every morning. It's unbelievable the way they played. They have the best talent in the league. I mean, not in the league, in the division.
Yes.
And they're 20 games under 500. It's awful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and the Twins they've been hitting, I think, better overall. Certainly hitting better since the break. I don't know if all of their ills are cured. They got Buxton going in that one game in the White Sox series, at least. And you wrote about Julian not too long ago, and he's been awfully good. That's makes it okay, or makes it less costly that that Arise is doing those things, because I don't think you'd want to have both of those guys on your roster, on your team. But he's been awfully good. He looks like he could be a hitter for a long time. So it looks a little bit better because they're actually starting to hit the ball the other way and not swinging for the fences every single time.
Kirilloff has been a huge,
yes,
having him in the middle of the order. And what I was saying earlier this year, that he would be, if he was healthy, a 3, 4, 5 hitter in a lineup for a decade, because I loved it. I mean, he's way better at the plate than Royce Lewis. Everybody gets excited about Royce Lewis. Kirilloff's swing is twice as good as Royce Lewis's, in my opinion. But I like Royce Lewis, but I'm not ready to have a parade for him. But I love Kirilloff. If he stays healthy, he makes all the difference in the world. Now, he'll pop up. He had that one game. He popped up and struck out 4 times, and then he won it with a base hit. But him and Julia now had 2 mediocre games. Once we praised him mightily Saturday and Sunday, he had 2 mediocre games. But I think he's a hitter. But having those 2 kids hitting second and third, leading off Correa has been a good idea for them. Having those 2 guys hit second and third. But you turn around again, Michael, they had Solano hitting 4th yesterday. I mean, it's still not put together, this lineup. I mean, we could have been talking about a shutout bullpen came in. I mean, Giolito rolled through them, and they still are managing to put up a huge number of strikeouts. So but they as you said, they pointed out they figured out how to win those games instead of lose them. And Duran, he's certainly not babying Duran along here. I mean, he's every time he's got a chance to win a game, he's using him, and you wonder how long that's going to last. Guy throwing it, he's had a little arm trouble. What, 2 years ago was it? He only pitched in 15 games. 3 years ago, I guess, 15 games, and not the pandemic year. The
21.
This was just 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and he threw the other day. He threw 104-mile-an-hour pitches.
Yeah,
that I think you gotta not you ride him as hard. You gotta just hope somebody else can get him out once in a while. But I never thought we would talk about Rocco not using a guy,
right?
A guy too much. But
right.
I mean, the fact that Jorge Lopez became unusable has been a terrible break for him, because God, in April he was 10 games. Was unhittable, and what happened, nobody knows. And Jax is back; he's pitching good. This Brock Stewart came out of nowhere, was a savior for them, and now he's coming back from the DL, but it's arm trouble, and will we ever see that guy again? Coming in and throwing 98 all the time? So I would think that you're going to move one of your left-handed hitting outfielders, Larnach, right? Or
somebody, somebody with some upside still.
Kepler.
Yep.
By the way, Buxton's going on paternity leave. His wife had a baby, or is going to have a baby today, and he's going to be gone for 3 days. And they called up Larnach, so now they only have about 5 left-handed hitting corner outfielders.
Right.
Right. Batch Walter and him and Kepler and Willie Castro is a switch hitter, and
Kirilloff technically still can play outfield too.
Too. He's got some. He's okay at first base with scooping the ball and doing something, but he's still a little inexperienced over there. He needs some pitcher
fielder practice.
Yeah, he keeps tossing the ball over the guy's head when he comes over to cover first base. So he doesn't really have that down. But they're. I mean, at 8-2, you can't complain. That's what they beat Oakland 3, which you should do, and they beat, and the White Sox handed them 2, and they beat them 3. So they haven't played great. They play Seattle now, which is a competitive team. So might be a little steamy in that bowl at Target Field here this week too. So when the breeze isn't blowing, it can get a little hot in that place too. It's going to be. But we'll see if the ball is flying in that steamy heat too. But they're. They've certainly recovered from what they were going through before the break. That's for sure. And not killing the ball, but doing enough to win their games. And Cleveland lost a tough game yesterday, so they're 3 ahead now.
3 ahead now, after being a half game back at the break. So they've made up 3.5 games in about 10 games, which it just seems like they should be able. I do still think they're the best team in this division. They have the best. If we thought Chicago had the best talent at the start, that's proven not to be the case. Now the Twins are just the best team. It was kind of maddening. I think the maddening thing about the first half of the year was how much better they obviously were when they actually could hit the ball, and how much they had squandered with the pitching.
Yes. I tell you, the guy I like a lot is we talk about the starting pitching. Ober, I like that guy a lot, man. Yeah, he gets out there and he give up a home run right off the bat. And he'll look like the first inning he might be getting hit around. He never gets hit around. He always goes 6 or 7, and he gets the ball back and he flings it. He throws a little changeup. He throws the high fastball. He only throws it 92 or 93, but it looks like it's coming from right in front of them because he got the long reach. And he's just a quiet lawyer, not a warrior. He's a warrior, but he's in a completely unemotional one when he's on the mound. He gets upset with himself, but he doesn't show it the next pitch. He doesn't let things get away from him, and he's been fabulous for him. I just soon see him pitching as any of their starters, and when he's out there, I have a lot of confidence in him. Now you got Dallas Keuchel, who's been had pitched 6 scoreless innings in St. Paul the other day. I'm thinking they pop him into the rotation and go 6-man for a couple of weeks if they can afford it with their bullpen. I don't think they'll replace anybody, but I think that they, he's not the kind of guy you can put in the bullpen because, okay, they only got one lefty, right? Well, he doesn't have that lefty advantage because he throws the 87. It's not like it's, a left-handed hitter says, how am I going to hang in there against this guy? So, but I got to think they got to take a look at him if he can get hitters out. But you don't want him and Maeda pitching back-to-back in the rotation either because they're both kind of slop ballers. But Maeda was good again the other day. But anyway, I got to think they're going to slip him up here, and instead of letting him walk away, they're going to maybe give him a start here and let everybody else take an extra day here. Because Joe Ryan looks like he could use one too. He's getting up there in the innings too. He's become our modern Radke, hasn't he?
Yes, you're right. And the first inning troubles too. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's just kind of Radke. Radke learned to not let solo home runs bother him, and I think Ryan's kind of the same kind of kid. He's an interesting kid. He'll beat himself up once in a while verbally, but I think he's fully confident in himself, and he seems to be a good guy. So, but he definitely is Radke, that's for sure.
I think you're right with Ryan. I think the rotation is good. What I was saying a minute ago was I wonder if, sometimes when a guy like Kenta is coming back from an injury, if they would consider shutting him down for 10 or 15 days too, just to give his arm a chance to rebound again. And he's kind of had the long-term injury, then the other injury this year too. So I wonder if that would be a way to get Keuchel 2 or 3 starts on kind of keep everybody on regular rest. But I like the idea about Ryan getting some rest too, because you're right. He probably hasn't, he pitched a decent amount of innings last year, but nobody pitched like over 150 innings last year. So he's probably going to be getting pretty close to his career high here, even not too long. So that's a pretty good idea too.
They got to ride with Sonny though. It would not be a good look if they let Sonny go.
No, they can't do that.
I don't think they can. As soon as you do that, somebody gets hurt in the road.
Still hasn't won since April though.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is not. That was only their 4th win in his last 14 starts, but most of it's the hitters,
Yes,
almost all of it has been the hitters. That happens, Joe Ryan for a while there was getting 10 runs. Every time they popped up and scored 10 runs, he was pitching. So right. that happens. It's just a weird game. But the Kansas City, they certainly, I got to mention that they certainly are the good 5 team, aren't they? The Yankees were in complete crisis, but the Royals came to town and they won 3 in a row. So now they're going to lose 120 games.
Well, both them and the A's, I looked at it. Yeah, they both played exactly.
I think they got the same record now, maybe.
And they both had played like 100 games, and they were like 27 and 73. It's like that's a pace to be like the worst in baseball.
The old Sports Illustrated, when it was the greatest with the novel ideas, they would cover the next Kansas City Oakland series and do a great piece on the drama of having 2,200 people in the stands.
Oh yeah.
The bad part about the Royals is not only are they horrible, but the Chiefs are in town. They have nobody. The Chiefs are in town.
Right.
The greatest, the Pat Mahomes is now bigger than he's ever been because of the Netflix thing on the quarterback.
Oh,
he's the hero of heroes. He's the best athlete in the world. He says, I want to stay in Kansas City. And then you got the baseball team, which is trying to tell you they need a new stadium, why they're going 28 and
Yes.
7-3. So it is quite the contrast, to say the least. It's the Twins go back there, right? The end of the right next week.
I think they only have 3 left with the Royals. I can't remember where it is though.
Yeah, but I think it's the end of the month, right? So
okay.
I think it's where they start. That's a fun series to that would be a great series to have to go down there as a columnist and write about the excitement that lives at Royal Stadium as the Chiefs. The same time the Chiefs are starting practice,
Who will win more games this year, the Royals or the Chiefs?
Yeah, that's right. That is amazing. That's I was there when they were going to World Series in I'm not sure what year it was.
14 and 15, right? Was that the years?
And the Chiefs were horrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is probably even before that. They weren't going to the World. They did go to the World Series once in there too, right? But when George was at the height of his thing, and the Chiefs were awful, and the Royals were, there was a Chiefs game in the afternoon, and for some reason, and a Royals game at night, and right over in that complex, and there was 25,000 people at the Chiefs game and 40,000 at the Royals.
Yeah.
So, that's a long time ago, but it was that was when the Royals owned the town and the Chiefs were terrible. So
kind of a microcosm of the flip-flop that we've seen in sports in the last 30, 40 years is that that town right there, because that was a great baseball town when they were good. Those were fun teams. They were always built on, felt like speed and things like Willie Wilson and doing all that.
My first year on the beat, 74. Twins opened the season there. They won 6-4 on Friday night when the great Sergio Ferrer scored from second on a sacrifice fly to center because Amos Otis fell down.
Oh, wow.
And next day, they got beat 23-6 with Bill Hands making his one start. And then they got rained out on Sunday, so they split the series. And then they came back, and the first game back, they gave up 17 runs. So they gave up 40 runs in 2 games against those Royals. And that's when it was a turf field.
Yeah,
Rack meet with the balls in the gap, and they just kept running around the bases.
That's hilarious.
It was fantastic. What an indoctrination that was to allegedly
to be writing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, right. Patrick, before we go, I hope you don't wilt in the heat of the 3M, and I hope the 3M Open does not distract you from the importance of the League's Cup in soccer.
New thing. Well, we advance. No, we're playing in a bracket right now. It's a 4-team bracket. So
Loons beat Puebla 4-0 last night.
But and then you play one of your own league teams, right? And then you play another Mexican league team.
I think so.
The first 2 are at home. Do they have to go on the road at all or not?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Mexico, I don't know either. It's stupid. But what the hell? Who cares? It's soccer. I haven't been this fired up since we beat hated Vietnam in the women's soccer game. That was what a glorious victory that was. But but the golf, our guy Van Argen got in the tournament. The kid who won the state open and the state amateur. I wrote about him on Sunday. He won he at that point he had to go through qualifying. He's going to be a senior at Valparaiso or a 5th-year senior, but they came up with Hollis, as he has a tendency to do, came up with a exemption for him yesterday. So he's the kid's in the tournament. It's gonna be harder. It's gonna be hard to believe that he was what was it? He won the state open by 9. Won of them by 9 and won them by 12, and he shot oddly scores. So and he's a Blaine kid, so he'll be the hometown favorite. Hoping he can make the cut. But the biggest name they got coming is Justin Thomas, because he needs to get into the FedEx Cup.
Oh, wow.
That's the top. This year it's 70. In previous years, the low 125 got in. So
Right.
but now it's the low 70 because it's a 3-week. It's only a 3-week thing, and this is the second to last tournament for FedEx points. So they got a few of these guys who are prominent players who have to get into the FedEx Cup. That's why Justin Thomas is here. He's playing awful, and so he had to come here for the British Open. So because he missed the cut again there. So anyway, he's the biggest name in the tournament. Dustin, we don't get Dustin Johnson to come in. He was there 2 straight years ago. Did his best to miss the cut both times. Didn't have to stick around. Last year, he intentionally hit the ball in the water, or 2 years ago, so he didn't have to stick around. He was a live guy by last year.
Yes,
so.
Yes, he was. Well,
good luck. It's not exactly a big name field, and it's going to be 98 degrees. So it might be a little tough drawing people out there, but they'll give it their best shot.
They will. Well, Patrick, good talking to you as always. We'll do this again next week. Who knows what will happen between now and then? I will not lament the lack of drama because the last time I did, we got Jordan Addison going 140, and that the Vikings will provide, right? The Vikings will provide.
They haven't been as good at it as they used to be, getting arrested, but there's potential. This kid's got potential. There's no doubt. We need a hothead or two just to keep things lively. So at least that. All right, sir.
All right, thanks, Patrick. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.